Hello, everyone. Welcome to One Heart, One Light, One Love. I'm William Besman,
And I'm Judith Grant.
and we're here to talk about something that's happening in the universe now, and many people we feel are struggling with, and that is how do you hold light in the face of fear? And Judith, what did you start?
Yeah. Well, this obviously is a lot to do with our current situation, both nationally and internationally. When I've been talking to people and looking to see what people actually are posting on Facebook, and this has been going on a while, not just immediately currently, but what's been happening for a while. There's so much anger, again, on both sides of the fence, on everyone's difference of opinions and such. There's so much anger that you'll pick up and you'll hear in people. And we know that spiritually speaking, and we even know from basic psychology, that all fear gives rise to anger. So the anger we're seeing, if we look beyond the words that are being spoken and the actions that are being taken that are just such an abomination. And again, it's not just in our country, it's all around the world. And it's in the Middle East, and it's in the European countries, and it's in the far eastern countries. So it's not just what we see on TV. It's not just what we hear. We know that the people of our planet are responding in this anger response, basically because of fear.
And you know what is so sad? It doesn't seem to be any discussions anymore, that you can't hear someone's side or what their beliefs are, Judith. And then you could discuss it or you could challenge it. Now it seems to raise the bar instantly to violence or
Yeah.
threatened violence when people come to these things with their masks on, with their bats and weapons. That's not coming from a place of peace, right?
And
That's
again, like
no
I
different
said,
than the peace
yeah,
pipe they used to
yeah.
smoke with Native Americans.
But it's also not new to our world. And like I said, it's not just in this country, it's all around our world. This is going, again, I could add more: South America, Middle America. We could talk about tribes in Africa, people against people. I think that's really what this is about. And it's about people, God's children, raising arms in fear of other God's children. And there's no simple answer or solution, but I know one thing that has always been true and always will be true: that when you take anger against anger, when fear takes the form of anger, it can never heal. There is never going to be a healing. That's why we saw in the Middle East for thousands of years, and that's what we've seen. There was, in Ireland for many, 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 many decades of time. Go back historically, between kingdoms that existed way before what we call ourselves civilized, barbaric things that were done. People against people, human beings, God's children against God's children.
So I think what people are forgetting is that it's not about race, it's not about color, it's not about um, ideologies at times. I think it's about understanding that we're all from one race, and many people have said this before, but it's the human race. And how can we get along? But um, inside of each of the arguments are some forms of truth. There's things that they find that are true that are spurring them on and wanting to get that point out there, and that's understandable. But we're at a place now that's frightening because there doesn't seem to be healing taking place. And yet, I think there's a reason why this is happening.
Yeah.
I think in order for something to heal, it has to be brought up to the surface. And many of you know what we believe, that the energy in the universe is changing. More and more light is coming into the planet. raising our vibration and bringing some of the deeper stuff that's been buried,
Yeah.
right, to the surface, but it's coming very quickly. And people do not know how to handle that intensity of feeling and emotion right now. We're not used to it. So what do? They go back to primitive ways, and that is to argue, fight, and disagree, as opposed to look at, all right, what is it that we're all looking for? Should not the answer be that to peace? That we should all be looking at how can each group be the best version of themselves? How can we be our brightest light and help others be the brightest light? And understand this: your light does not get brighter by criticizing, condemning, and ridiculing and threatening others. All right? That is not the highest vibration. But by coming from a place of love and shining that light out there and looking at what is negotiable, what is something that we can deal with. Now, I also believe that there are some factors on this planet that do not want to negotiate right now, that are not in a place of looking for peace. And they have a different ideology than many others. And that is something that may not be able to be negotiated at this time. And there's a difference between recognizing that we are all one and we have that one heart, one light, one love philosophy, Judith, that I believe, but also we have to set some boundaries, some loving boundaries as to what we can accept. If someone comes to the table with a bat and they're threatening, you got to set boundaries with that. We've got to stop that from happening. Then come to a table where we can talk peace and oneness. But there may be some debating and there may be some exchange of ideas and energy. But if our hearts are open, then we can see the light in each other's arguments.
You know, even back, again, I'm going to talk about just broadly, back in the time that we were all little individual tribes scattered across this world. There were times that tribes went to war, but there were also times when they were, I believe, raising in vibration, becoming, in a sense, what we call more civilized, which I have different takes on that now, or what people call civilized. But there were times that tribes would come together. The heads of two warring tribes would sit down and try to negotiate some type of peace. And again, this is our commonality. And this was always, when the light is rising, it will seek to do that. It will seek to find solutions. It will seek, or at least acknowledge, that hatred and fear are not the way. You know, the way our world, since, again, its earliest beginnings, the way people have taken power and taken power away from people is by instilling hatred, fear / then into hatred, therefore
Creating
dividing.
separation,
Yeah,
right,
and
dividing.
that's always been the method. If you want to bring down your enemy, the greatest way you could do it is insidiously. It may not be obvious, but turn them against one another. When you have a world, a country, a city, a planet, a continent that's turned against one another, divided, that's when they are more conquerable. That's when dark can move in. And like what William said is, a lot of people have been talking for a lot of years now about ascension. And there are a lot of people that talk about what that might mean. But if we're not going to go into a big talk about that right now, but if you think about as light is entering, and I think that's what's happened through the years in our civilization, is whenever light or enlightenment begins to become infused, it shakes up the shadow, it shakes up the dark, it challenges those that are working from ego and power to fight back against the light. They don't necessarily want peace. They don't necessarily want harmony. So there's this shaking up that goes on, like William was saying. And the only thing that I know to be true, there is no one answer, is that if we meet these days nationally and internationally with compassion and love, bring ourselves to prayer and meditation, focusing on the fact that we are all God's people, and really sending out the prayer of peace, the prayer of unity, the prayer of hope. Only in that can the tide be shifted. But by taking one side or the other, by becoming angry and infuriated and becoming fearful, is not going to be the way. It just isn't.
And we really need to look inside each of ourselves and realize what are we fighting? We have to find peace within each of our own hearts,
Yeah.
then within families, right? Then within cities and so forth, and then within our country. We have to represent one light from this country to out to the world. The world looks at our country as a place to come. That's why it was created many years ago, for people to be safe here and to come here and to prosper here, to contribute to that belief system and that philosophy of each one working together to create a greater whole. However, there are some philosophies out there that aren't doing that and to believe in that. And we really need to look at how do we know what's true? Well, the only one that can determine that is you. And what we suggest and what we believe here at Pathways to Health is that we look inside our hearts, we open our hearts, heal our own inner wound, expand our light out, create a safe space, and then go inward with the answers. Because there are people in this country that are here to divide us, and many of them are in power. And we need to find out for ourselves who they are and what words to listen to and what words not to listen to. And it's only from our heart that we can tell that truth, not our emotions, not our lower three chakras, not even our third eye, because what that sees isn't always what's needed in humanity. But from our heart, as many of you know, it's the only chakra that can integrate the lower three chakras of humanity with the upper three chakras of spirituality and bring that together to create healing, starting from within each one of us. And what we're asking each of you to do is to go inward, to expand your light, to be in that safe, sacred space within you. And from there, expand that. And to draw to you the people that can benefit from your love and wisdom for the highest and greatest good. And from there, uniting together and seeing the goodness in each other, the oneness, and building upon that so that we can be safe as a country, that we can be the light for the world. And yes, people will be drawn here. And when they come through the proper channels, they'll be adding light here. And that's what we're asking each of you to do.
Yeah. And I think, that comes again, there's no quick fix on this. But again, look back historically. This has been going on since, for some people, they would say from Adam and Eve. This has been going on since the earliest recorded histories of our world, around the world, where people turn against people. And it is always out of fear. And that raises the anger and that raises the division. So William said it perfectly. We may not be able to, any one of us, stand in front of a TV camera and say the magic words that's going to make peace throughout the world. However, if we don't look into the camera of our heart and make peace inside of ourselves with all parts of ourselves, That means making peace even with the parts of yourself that you, excuse the expression, hate or fear or have like an angst against. It's about forgiveness and love at the highest level, starting with your light. If we can each individually do that, then you bring all those lights together, and there will be a shifting turn. There will be a tide of peace amongst this planet, and that includes all of its inhabitants, including every living creature, winged, swimming, crawl, four-legged. It's for everything that is of life and God's grace and goodness.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us. Many blessings. And please go within, create that sacred space for yourself. Come to a place of peace within yourself, because once you know peace and you've healed your own wounds, then your light is brighter and you can hold others in a place of compassion and help them to heal as well.
Yeah. Transform your fear. Look at where it's coming from. Transform that fear to a powerful, powerful tool of light.
Well, thank you for joining us. And once again, I'm William Besman.
And I'm Judith Grant.
From One Heart, One Light, One Love. And many blessings to all of you.